Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Ballabha Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Gopijana Ballabha Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Gopijana Ballabha Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Yasodanandana Raja Dhanaranjana Jaya Braja Dhanaranjana. Yasodanandana Raja Dhanaranjana Jaya Braja Dhanaranjana. Yamuna Dhiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Yamuna Dhiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Ballabha Grivadari Jaya Grivaradari. Gopijana Bhava Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Yasodanandana Raja Janaranjana Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Raja Dhanaranjana Jaya Braja Dhanaranjana. Yamunatiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari. Yamunatiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prabhadakacharya Asadhara Sadushi Shiman. His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Haribo Slava Zabrani Bhaktam Slava Shri Guru Shri Gaurangi. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tenamane. Namaste Saraswatunde Ve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskyatyade Siddharane. Om Agyanativarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutle Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajaivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Prijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakans Vitam Scha. Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanshena Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudha Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 8, Chapter 22, Bali Maharaj surrenders his life. We'll just read text number 6. Yasmin Vairanu Bandena Yudena Vibhudetara Bhavo Lebire Siddhim Yamnu Haikanta Yoginaha Yasmin Vairanu Bandena Yudena Vibhude Tara Bhavo Lebire Siddhim Yamu Haikanta Yoginaha. Naina Ladies. Yasmin Bandena Yudena Vibhudetara Bhavo Lebire Siddhim Yamu Haikanta Yogina. Yasmin, unto you, Vaira Anubandena, by continuously treating as an enemy. Vyudena, firmly fixed by such intelligence. Vibhuda, Itara, the demons, those other than the demigods. Bhava, many of them. Lebire, achieved. Siddhim, perfection. Yam, which. Uha, it is well known. Ekanta yogina, equal to the achievements of the greatly successful mystic yogis. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Many demons who were continuously inimical toward you finally achieved the perfection of great mystic yogis. Your Lordship can perform Your Lordship can perform one work to serve many purposes, and consequently, although you have punished me in many ways, I do not feel ashamed of being arrested by the ropes of Varuna, nor do I feel aggrieved. Purport. Bali Maharaj appreciated the Lord's mercy not only upon him, but upon many other demons. Because this mercy is liberally distributed, the Supreme Lord is called all-merciful. Bali Maharaj was indeed a fully surrendered devotee. But even some demons who were not all devotees, but merely enemies of the Lord, attained the same exalted position achieved by many mystic yogis. Thus Bali Maharaj could understand that the Lord had some hidden purpose in punishing him. Consequently, he was neither unhappy nor ashamed because of the awkward position which he had been put by the Lord, in which he had been put by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Many demons who were continuously inimical toward you finally achieved the perfection of great mystic yogis. Your Lordship can perform one work to serve many purposes, and consequently, although you have punished me in many ways, I do not feel ashamed of having been arrested by the ropes of Varuna, nor do I feel aggrieved. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskadyade Satarane. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Samaham samabhuteshu name dvaistosti na priyaha ye bhajanti tumam bhakta maiteteshu chapyaham. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to everyone. And yet whoever renders service unto me is within me, and I am within him. Generally speaking, most people observe reality from the external point of view of their own conditioned life. And therefore, they think that God is partial. As a matter of fact, the whole seventh canto, well, not the whole seventh canto, the beginning of the seventh canto is about whether or not God is partial or not. Because after all, Hiranyakashipu was complaining. Why did God come and kill my little brother? Is it that he's just favorable towards the demigods because they're like a parent or some elderly person gives a little child some candy, and then the child becomes favorable towards him. So the demigods give God a little candy, and then God takes their side and kills people like his little baby brother. Is that why God killed his brother? So actually, as explained here again, that God is equal to everyone. Krishna is equal to everyone. And when we say God, we mean Krishna's position as the controller. Therefore, nothing happens by accident. For an ordinary person, everything is, practically speaking, mostly under karma, especially in Kali Yuga, but even for an ordinary person who's under the spell of karma, he still has an opportunity to use his free will. That's why there are something like religious people still available. In other words, whether it's whether the Bible, Lord Jesus Christ, or the Quran, there's something about what's God conscious and what's not God conscious. And therefore, if someone bothered to read the Bible, the Quran, or other such books, or heard from persons who read the Bible, the Quran, or other such books, or the Vedas, they get some idea of what God wants, and if they were agreeable to do that, then they're beyond the laws of karma. Because karma manifests itself not as some kind of like force. Well, maybe it does manifest it, but what is that force? As I said yesterday, Trividha narakasya idam dwaram nashitam atmanaha. kama, krodha, tata, lobhas, tasmat, etam, trayam, chajet. There are three gates leading to hell: lust, anger, and greed. And every sane person should become free from these three gates because they lead one to the hell. So karma manifests itself not as there is karma, there are arrangements made, but generally speaking, we get into trouble not because simply our fate. The real trouble is because we're being influenced by lust, anger, and greed. And we're being influenced by lust, anger, and greed, and therefore delusion, forgetfulness, and loss of intelligence, which lead to what's called pragya aparad in Ayurveda, activities which are pragya aparad. Where does aparad come from? Does anyone know? What's that? But what is the derivation of aparad? What is the words? What's that? Yes, against devotional service. Lust, anger, greed, delusion, forgetfulness, loss of intelligence leads to what? Happy life. A life full of fulfillment. No, it leads to aparads, activities which are against devotional service. One falls into the material pool and swims around for a long, long time in that material pool of offenses against Srimati Radharani. So, generally speaking, people think that they're unfortunate victims of fate, but they're unfortunate victims of their own desires, of their own dovetailing their desires with that of unfortunate material desires. And the way out of it is to take shelter of Krishna and his various manifestations. One can take shelter of Krishna to whatever degree one is qualified to take shelter of Krishna, and however Krishna is presenting oneself according to those qualifications. So, even one is born in a family where there is some religious practice, one is fortunate, because one will not become a complete animal. And generally speaking, in modern society, religiosity has some pervasiveness, although it's been being dissipated by the fire of sinful desire. Constant and incessant advertisement of lust, anger, greed. But this is only a layer of our problem. The real layer is avidya. Just like Bali Maharaj, he's not unhappy because he has no avidya, he has no ignorance. He knows that Krishna is behind everything, as it says here, and that whatever Krishna does is good. Therefore, he's not angry against God, nor is he competing against God, nor is he envious of God. He appreciates whatever situation he's in as an opportunity to serve Krishna. So that's called vidya, and anything else is called avidya. And when we come under the spell of avidya, then we get a false ego, asmita. And that false ego means I am this body, and everyone else is their body, and all these circumstances are real. This is the ultimate reality. There's nothing beyond the material nature, and if it is, it's impersonal. And if it's not impersonal, and there's nothing and material nature is not real, then everything is zero. Some kind of false ego manifests itself in different degrees of ignorance. And then asmita, false ego, automatically we get involved in lust and anger and greed arising out of attachment and aversion, which produces the abhiniveshita, which is the icing on the cake, or the cherry on the cake. And what is that? It's delusion. It's living this world as if it's the only reality. It's not that it's not real. Just like a dream, it has some reality to it, but it's only temporary. And therefore, before you know it, it's gone, and you can't even remember what happened. When it's going on, it's like the most important thing in the universe. Everyone should stop and observe it. And if you're not stopping and observing what I'm going through, then you're insensitive. In my eyes, you're a demon. So that's called delusion, because we're not the center of the universe. Just like an ant may think, I'm the queen ant. Everyone loves me. I got millions of people working for me. And everyone else couldn't care, looks to the ant and says, by my mercy, you still exist. And at the ant is thinking they're the center of the whole universe. And someone else is thinking, I am a powerful, all-powerful personality, and by my mercy you continue to exist. And the demigod is looking at us like little ants running around, trying to do something significant in the most insignificant universe. So, delusion, and from delusion we forget actually any good information we ever obtained. If there was any storehouse of knowledge or real knowledge, then we start forgetting it, coming under delusion. It becomes less important. Just like sometimes we may experience, we're in a big kirtan, we're in ecstasy, and the next moment we forget everything. We think, what's for prasadam? That's not bad, but that's all we think about. Our service goes from our brain to our tongue. On its way down. So, we forget and then we lose our intelligence. We can't figure out what's to be done, what's not to be done. As a matter of fact, we're inspired to serve our mind and senses. That becomes the central point of our existence. I exist to serve my mind and senses. And then that's what we do. We serve our mind and senses, and we commit so many different kinds of aparadhs. We may have a big position like Daksha, and as soon as he saw that someone is not serving his false ego, and then he curses Lord Shiva, who's meditating on Vishnu. Not a good idea. Quite an aparadh. As a matter of fact, as they say in English, he lost his head over it. He literally lost his head because of his offense. So therefore, when we're being chastised, we should at least, if we think of Krishna, then the chastisement has some benefit. And if we get some benefit, we get some rather relatively pleasant position. If we think about Krishna, then we learn how to tolerate our so-called good position. We can see it in the proper perspective as an opportunity to serve Krishna better. In any case, without Krishna in the center, all we're doing is aparadh. We may get praise for what a beautiful aparadh you made, Prabhu. You're really, I really appreciate it. You know, that offense was one of the nicest I've seen so far. It had everything in it except for Krishna. And then we think, yes, everyone's praising me, I'm so expert, I'm so good, I'm so everything. And pride cometh before the fall. Because pride is born of delusion. And delusion will lead to forgetfulness of who we actually are, and the forgetfulness will lead to loss of intelligence, which will commit more and more aparadhas until it finally catches up with us, and then we find out who we actually, we're reminded that we're actually not the king of the universe, like Daksha was reminded. He didn't learn immediately. He took birth again, and he was dutiful. He didn't become Daksha because he was just a demon. He was a very dutiful personality, going under great austerity, but ultimately he couldn't get free from his false ego. He did so many wonderful things, so many wonderful austerities and penances and service, but it was all for his false ego ultimately. He couldn't get free from it. And therefore he took birth again, and he offered wonderful, beautiful prayers to Lord Vishnu, so wonderful and beautiful, that Vishnu came riding on the back of Garuda. Now let us see, after our kirtan, whether Vishnu comes riding on the back of Garuda. With the demigods, no less. Therefore, we shouldn't think, oh, this guy's a demon, I knew he was a demon, low-class Daksha. No, who can offer such prayers that Vishnu himself is going to come? And not only came, but Daksha was completely in ecstasy. So much ecstasy he couldn't continue standing. Just filled with completely ecstatic feelings and emotions. But he couldn't get free from his false. His aim was not to get free from his false ego, and therefore Krishna gave him ecstasy, gave him transcendental pleasure, and left his false ego completely intact. He was a devotee of Vishnu, and therefore he could experience great pleasure, but he wouldn't give up his material identification just because he was in ecstasy. And therefore he wound up offending Narada Muni again, cursing Narada Muni, another aparadha. Because out of delusion, if we don't give up our delusion, then our intelligence will remain impure, our memory, we won't see things properly, our feelings won't be proper, we won't remember Krishna with the same feelings all the time, and therefore we'll lose our intelligence, and therefore we'll commit aparadhas, like Daksha cursed Narada Muni. He couldn't be in one place for too long, because Narada Muni made his sons into sannyasis again. The ultimate offense for a householder is to have your children become sannyasis. Yeah, that's even nowadays we can see, as I said before in the last class, I think, that if you become a devotee, it's worse than, for the parents, it's worse than death. You should have died before you became a devotee. You would have done better, for the family at least. But if you become a devotee and you get married and have children, then all right. The disciplic succession goes on. Therefore you become worthy family member, because you're carrying on the parampara. But if you become a sannyasi, or you remain without children, then you're worse than dead. We just wasted our energy on you, and you didn't produce anything, except for renunciation. So this is a product, of course, of delusion, but the whole world is in delusion. The only thing is we shouldn't be in delusion, and therefore we should see every opportunity as an opportunity to become Krishna conscious. And especially when there's difficulty, tate nukampam susamikshamana, it's an opportunity to turn towards Krishna and take shelter of him. Just like now, I had a conference call with the devotees in Poland yesterday, the National Council, which we have quite regularly lately, because as you know, Poland is going through some challenges. With, I think they got 2 million refugees coming in from the Ukraine or something like that. In any case, it's become a lot easier to do things now amongst the devotees of Poland. It's no longer theoretical, let's do like so, especially if it's appropriate. So now we're making plans to prepare for emergencies. and most of the devotees most of our national council are attending the meetings and they're involved. And the further away you go from such problems, then the more, come on. Mañana, as they say, tomorrow. It's not so bad, Prabhu. We're happy, we're dancing, chanting, and especially we can still feast. So what's the problem? Why are you so agitated? Why are you so pushy? Let's just wait. At the time of death, we'll chant Hare Krishna. Therefore, problems are good if they help us focus our mind on Krishna. And generally speaking, in a civilized society, that's what people are taught. It's said that in World War II, that there was no atheists in the foxholes. In the Vietnam War, the Americans, there was no person who wasn't intoxicated on some kind of, marijuana or something. So that's the degradation. Previously, the war made them God conscious, and then as people became demons, the war just made them more and more insensitive. So we have to not be insensitive, we have to prepare, we have to see the challenges that are there, and then try to rely upon Krishna to meet them so that we become Krishna conscious and we can help others become Krishna conscious, because that's ultimately the only solution to the challenges. Like Bali Maharaj, he knew he was being punished, but he understood that this is benefit, so many benefits to it, because he was forced to give up his delusion of being the Lord of the universe and was forced to be humbled as seeing himself as completely subordinate to Vishnu, to Krishna. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Comments? Yes. We have a microphone. Not working. What happened to it? It's okay. Ye anilo premadana. Is it dead? Needs an operation. Or maybe, okay. Have you ever been in ecstasy? What's that? Well, have you ever been in ecstasy? Have you ever felt some ecstasy? Yeah. Did your false ego go away?
Maybe it wasn't so intense as his.
Well, in proportion to his false ego and yours. How much did your false ego go? Matter of fact, a lot of times when devotees are in ecstasy, at the end they think, wow, I knew I was special. But this confirms it. I knew I was worthy of the mercy of God. It could even increase one's false ego sometimes.
So what's then enough for this false ego to be overcame? I mean, if that's not like Krishna is...
Oh, don't worry, Krishna will arrange it. Maya will help too.
It has to be always like a country.
Well, when we're actually completely Krishna conscious, then we'll realize we're 1/10,000th the size of tip hair in size. Then at that time, it's very hard to get too puffed up. I'm going to become 2,000th the tips at one. 2/10,000th the tip of hair inside, 1/5,000th tip. I'm going to be twice as big as you are, Prabhu. We're so insignificant. And at the same time, one realizes how loving Krishna is, how loving Krishna's devotees are, how pleasureful and ecstatic they are, how many wonderful qualities they have. So no matter how many wonderful qualities we develop, comparison to them, we realize we're just insignificant. Yes? Aparad. Rag, dvesha. Yeah. They come one after another. What's the difference between them? Well, avidya is the foundation, is the root cause. So avidya is what emanates everything else. From avidya, if we don't know reality, then we can accept something which is unreal. In the light of reality, just like we hear all the time, dasa, dasa, anudasa, I'm the servant of the servants, that's my real identity. And therefore avidya goes away. I mean, that's real vidya. And therefore asmita goes away to a certain extent when we hear that. But if it doesn't go away, because of the avidya, because of the circle of feeding avidya through abhiniveshita, feeds avidya, it makes avidya thicker and thicker by acting according to abhiniveshita, according to fear of death and fear. Then avidya grows, it gets deeper and deeper. And therefore the false ego also gets deeper and deeper. And therefore raga and dvesha become more and more deep. And therefore abhiniveshita increases too. And on the other hand, if we hear real knowledge, then the false ego goes away and our attachment to, our proclivity to become attached to raga and dvesha diminishes, and therefore our fear and our anxieties go away too. And therefore we act in Krishna consciousness more in a higher platform, and therefore those activities also, by Krishna's mercy, gradually diminish avidya. So either we're making progress up or we're going down. Therefore we have sadhana bhakti. So these certain times of the day we go up, although we may spend a little time going down. But hopefully we go up more during the day than we go down. Anything else? Yes. Well, if you don't know, that means the false ego is still there. How do we know? Because we think ourselves, Krishna gives us the intelligence, the dhammi buddhi yogam tam, that you're the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. So as soon as we think like that, then the false ego has gone away. As soon as we accept that. As soon as we stop thinking like that, then the false ego comes back. Maybe not to the same extent, maybe it's diminished slightly, but it's still there, waiting to. Because the false ego is an energy, and therefore the energy can either go up or it could go down. Now when we think we're ourselves to be the servant of Krishna, it's not that the false ego completely goes away, but we're not acting on it, we're acting on the orders of Krishna through his representatives. And therefore, by that activity, then Krishna becomes pleased, and Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, he gives us intelligence to see things more clearly. And when we work with that intelligence, then he helps us, reveals himself. He helps our memory. He reveals himself in our memory. And if we feel his presence in that pleasure, transcendental pleasure, then we want to identify ourselves more and more as a servant of Krishna, rather than something else. So that's constantly, either we're becoming purified or we're getting a little bit cloudy in the false ego category.
Is this also connected with false emotions, or?
Oh, it's all from the delusion gives us, false emotions begin with lust. I have to enjoy. And then I'm angry, I'm frustrated because I can't enjoy. Or if I'm enjoying, if I think I'm happy, I'm in a good situation, I think this is going to go on forever. I just need more and more of whatever is making me happy. And if it goes away, then I become angry. And ultimately I blame God, the boss, someone else for causing it. And then delusion kicks in. All we can do is remember all the injustices that have been caused to me, have been done to me. And all these emotions kick in, fear, anger, frustration, everything, just intensify in delusion. And we just play around, and then we can't remember anything, and therefore we feel completely justified in feeling frustrated, angry, whatever else, desirous. It all becomes completely justified. And then we can't think about anything else except to satisfy my lust, anger, greed, delusion, whatever. Then that's always, and the emotions become super intense as we become determined to satisfy them at any cost with all the intelligence we have. Okay.
About mysticism. So, in Bhagavad Gita 6:37 and purport, Prabhupada says a part of self-realization or mysticism is described. So, question is mysticism synonym for self-realization?
It means in some respects, mysticism could be. Mysticism means you don't know what it is. Therefore it's mystic. So when you become self-realized, then that's mystic process, it's finding out what actually it is. For a person who's actually a mystic, who's uncovered, who's become self-realized, there's nothing mystical anymore. It's all understood. All the mist has gone away. Anything else? Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to ask about equality. How devotee should see situation when one person attacks another person, and if I'm in relationship with both person, karmically or however, should I see it like neutral and don't have any feeling with that, or
Well, it's not so.
equality?
Well, we should understand nothing happens by accident, but we have to use our intelligence, going to Guru Sadhana Shastra, coming from Krishna, what to do under different circumstances.
Should I look that one person is good, one is bad? One is like a demon, one is innocent?
It could be, depends, I don't know. Maybe they're both bad. Maybe both are good, I don't know. There's different there are varieties of consciousness and circumstances. Like for instance, if someone blasphemes Krishna, then we're supposed to, first of all, try to defeat them by arguments. And we can't do that. Theoretically, we could cut out their tongue and then take our own life. But that may not be appropriate. Or we should go away. So, there are varieties of responses that are possible according to our capacity and the circumstance. Just like someone may say, I don't like your Krishna, so we're going to take out our pocket knife and cut out their tongue, and then take our life on the street. The street would be full of dead devotees and tongues. No, we have to use our intelligence too, to find out what Krishna wants us to do under those circumstances. Now, if a little child is being beaten on the street by a big husky man, we might try to interfere. At least call the police or do something. Not, I'm neutral. It's all be arranged by Krishna. No, we have to use our intelligence and see what's appropriate.
So it is duty to protect.
Depends who it is.
If you're child,
Yeah, I mean, if it's here in some way or another, we're not indifferent. It's the strength of the strong devoid of desire and weakness, so strength is meant to protect the weak. Anything else? Yeah.
Point about paradise. You mentioned in the festival lecture that if we that Maha Mantra like don't have so much power if we don't render service. So I didn't understood. Is that mean Maha Mantra taking Maha Mantra like service or doing practical service or both?
Well, both of them. We don't do practical. If we utilize our body, mind, and words in Krishna's service, then we're purifying our body, mind, and words, including our tongue. And therefore, when we chant, we'll be able to do it more devotionally.
But if we don't render service, practical service, Maha Mantra don't have such powers.
Well, if we're chanting the whole day long, 24 hours a day, then it's going to become very powerful. But if we have a time where we're chanting, another time when we're doing material activities, then obviously it's like trying to light a fire and pour water on it, afterwards. It becomes extremely difficult. So we have to, if we're chanting and we keep ourselves in the fire, then the chanting becomes more and more effective. Krishna gives us more intelligence throughout the whole day how to chant better. Why just during our sadhana bhakti? Why not chant the whole day? Anything else? Kuala. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande.